Right, everyone, just wanted to give a quick video on inversion and opposites. So we all know in this clown world that it's everything they tell you is bad. It's probably good for you. Everything they tell you is good for you is bad for you. So the inversion also is found in the English language. So English language being the most deceptive language of all. As an example, certain words have become buzzwords that are considered, as soon as you hear them, negative or bad. So one being ego. People say, oh mate, you want to lose the ego. Or he's got too much ego. Well, all we take from that is that the person is full of his own self-importance, self-centered, all about him, probably narcissistic. This is the egoic trait that I would consider really doesn't serve much purpose. But that's what ego is told with. Whereas ego, and I've discussed this with a friend in the know on the same similar wavelength, in depth, and we really deconstructed it and reconstructed it and found that ego is actually a very complex issue. There's a lot of layers to an ego. Ego is complex. It's not just one thing like they've led you to believe. So somebody says, oh, get away, get rid of the ego. You take that to mean, oh, don't be full of yourself. You know, and I guess we can all get like that sometimes, not intentionally, and others absolutely intentionally. I'm not talking about that part of ego, because within your ego, egoic self, if you like, also exists parts that are very, very useful. So manifesting your best performance so that you can perform at the best of your ability, whatever endeavour that may be applied to, for the reason to be of service to others, to be of worth. So if you do something, you want to do it extremely well, exceptionally well, if you're passionate about it, to give the best account you can of yourself for the benefit of others, to be of service. That comes from ego. So don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Another example would be when they talk about what Carl Jung called shadow work. Oh, nobody likes to go and do their own shadow work. You should all do shadow work. No one wants to do shadow work because that's where exists all the parts of yourself that you are embarrassed about. You never want anyone to find out. If you have those kind of things, we've all got traits or done things or said things or thought things that, you know, may not fit into current society. Unless you are, you know, a psychopath or have a myriad of traits of a sociopath, then on the whole, if you're genuinely a good person, there's probably one or two things you might rather keep in the closet, so to speak. But nonetheless, you put them down into what Carl Jung would term as the shadow work. The parts of yourself that, you know, you don't want other people to necessarily know about, or the parts of yourself that you don't want to necessarily confront yourself because, you know, they make you feel lesser than what you think you are. But it's all part of us, right? What also exists in the shadow are the best parts of you. And when they say the saying, people shuffle off this mortal coil with their best song still unsung. That's true, that's apt. And quite often the reason for that is because you've been kept down. Like, so that could be family members, people around you as you're growing up, which you deem as your peers. And they put you in your place if you try to express yourself. So as an example, if you've got a very expressive child that talks a lot, it's not necessarily the fucking label of ADHD or whatever else they put these labels on people for to make them put under a spotlight, gaslight and feel gaslighted to feel bad. it could be just part of their consciousness, part of their unique personality trait where they want to shine and they want to share and they want to show. And as a child, you might be ridiculed for that. Be quiet. You've always got something to say. Be quiet. So you think, oh, I better be quiet. So you push that creative self, that creative part of yourself that desperately wants to sing down into the shadows. And you forget about it. And you become resentful of it. If it surfaces and you become resentful of people for making you shut it down. So such individuals that do it for whatever reason. Because they're irritable, don't want to hear you speak, or part of you shows something that they don't have or they've already suppressed. Just like crabs in a basket. I remember Jeff Thompson talking about crabs in a basket when he said fishermen don't even bother to put lids on the baskets when they're catching crabs, because as soon as one crab tries to climb up and escape, all the rest of the crabs pull it back down. And that's like life, really. It could be well-meaning, but really people keep you stifled. So as well as your darkest thoughts and your darkest desires that live in the shadow work, the very best things that are yet to be found within you also live there. And they may have been suppressed from early manipulation and communication, or you just may not have found them yet. That's why it's important to go within and do your shadow work. And when people put parts of themselves down deep into these dark depths of the shadow, they're misled if they think that they're never going to reappear, because it's like a steam cooker. It just builds up pressure and eventually they always reveal themselves because they want to be acknowledged, right? That's all you got to do, acknowledge them. You can then decide what you do with the information that you perceive. You're in control. You're at the control here. You're at the controls here. But for whatever reason, people don't do that. So I wrote a book called Full Spectrum Warrior, which is all about my experience in terms of spiritual awakening, whatever that means, and seeking a path to becoming the higher part of me that's within me, a better self, higher level of consciousness. And I've not published the book at all. It's finished, it's ready. It's available on a PDF. If anybody here wants to have a look, I'll send it to you for free. But it's not a book that I intended to publish. I just wanted to write it all down and depict it so that it had an expression. And I've given this expression of this book to people that I think are ready for it. And, it's received good comments. And I've given it to those that were not ready for it. And they've not got past the first few pages because it makes them feel uncomfortable. But in this book, I talk in depth about shadow work. And one of the things that I saw, or that I'd read during my research, I can't remember where it was from now. But if we've suppressed anything, then pretty strong chance that we've only done it as a child and we was a kid. Such as the example, being barked at if you've got too much to say. If you're too, what's the word I'm looking for? Expressive, maybe. If you're too expressive, too outgoing in your personality, it comes across as, you want to be heard, you want to be center of attention, you want to be butting in on everything. It's not meant that way at all necessarily. It just means you might want to express, and that might be suppressed in you by adults or maybe even well-meaning people that think, that it's not going to stand you in good stead acting like that. But nonetheless, you suppress it into this dark place. You don't think about it again. So chances are you suppress in your shadows, right? Also, if you've experienced childhood trauma, as most people living in this louche factory of course have, then you will put such thoughts and memories and reactions and expressions down into the shadow place. So if you were faced with an experience that you scared the fucking living daylights out of you, and you didn't have the courage to grab by the horns and deal with as you might now as an adult, you'll push that down into the shadow. So if you've got such an example, the advice was use your imagination, visualize with internal pictures in your head. Because your imagination, as I said before, is the virtual reality simulator between your ears that it should be in your control. We lose control of our imagination when before the age of 7, or at the age of 7, particularly with the indoctrination from school. But if you bypass all that, you give all that a swerve for some reason, or you just have a resilience, or you didn't pay any fucking attention, then chances are you still got a very good imagination. And you can visualize, and you can see pictures that will manifest. Right? If so, you would picture in your head, you as an adult, calling upon that younger version of you. So a 56-year-old version of me, let's say, sat in front of a 6-year-old version of me. And you would talk to them. And you would reiterate that you are them. And that you love them. That whatever decisions they made back then was based on a very limited amount of knowledge and understanding. And if you feel that it was wrong, it's not your fault. And I'm here to tell you that it's not your fault. And if I was there with you at that time, we would have made a different decision, but I wasn't. But now I am. And now we're together and we can address this situation together. And know that it wasn't your fault. And know that now, if faced with such a stimuli, we'd have a very different reaction. Because we are one and I'm here for you and I love you and I'll protect you always. This is a way of reframing, if you like, to use that NLP terminology, reframing a negative experience so that you can acknowledge it, give it the acknowledgement it exists because it's been in the shadows for so long, because it's never going to go away. It'll always come back round like a boomerang. And then reframe how you think about it, which takes out the impact of how you feel about it, and then it's dispelled. And that's another piece of your soul that you can pick up. So be aware of like things that tell you are bad. They're not necessarily bad. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater when somebody talks about ego, because it's got layers. You know, when somebody talks about your negative traits, and you know, look at them. Are they really negative? Because you just, rather than just shoving them down in the shadows, do the shadow work and look and analyze. And if there's something about a younger version of you that you feel let you down, embarrassed you, or was wrong, I understand you're looking at it from the perspective that you have now. You didn't know what you know, hadn't had the wisdom accumulated that you've accumulated so far. So sit with a younger version of yourself and have a chat, pep talk you through it, iron it out, let it go. They don't want you to do that. They want you to hold on to as much psychological baggage as you can. Don't give yourself the freedom. And like I said before, let's tell you about all sorts of things that are bad for you. You must wear sunglasses because the sun is bad for you. No, you shouldn't wear sunglasses because you stop the beautiful life-giving healing rays of the sun making contact with your eyes. Now, you shouldn't look directly at the sun at its hottest point of the day, of course not, but you should look around its periphery and you should feel it on your skin, and you should close your eyes and let it absorb into your third eye, because the sun is life-giving. Why the fuck do you think they want to blot it out? Get barefoot in nature. Yeah, get barefoot in nature. Electromagnetic energy source runs through us and everything in nature. You need to connect to it. That's why they gave you rubber-soled shoes as sneakers during the 50s, so that you wouldn't ground to the earth and then charge you for the experience. And made it a multi-billion-dollar industry. This is what they do. They take away what you need, give you what's bad for you. and make you work like a slave to pay for it. Recognise this. Recognise the inversion. Fucking have a look, see it. When you know, you can't unknow. Anyway, the main thing was about ego and shadow work. And then I talked about, obviously, saying the sun's bad for you when the sun's good for you. Obviously, with limitations. And the idea of disconnecting you from the earth was purposeful. Because those with the hidden occult knowledge, the secret societies knew. So if you look at any picture of so-called gentlemen during the 1900s, you'll see that they all walked with a cane, and the cane had a metal tip. So as it made contact with the earth or the ground, they were getting the benefits that they sought to take away from us. But ego. Beware when somebody says to you, oh, he's got too much ego. Well, maybe he exhibits too much of the negative trait of ego that we all surmise as full of yourself, self-serving, satanic. But like I said, complexity to ego. You need ego in order to become the best version of yourself to help others. Food for thought, as I always say. Peace.